Hey guys, good morning. Hope your Thursday is off to a great start, or was a great Thursday, depending on when you watch this. Today for us is a special day. It's Chris's birthday. I will not disclose her age, although rumor has it that she's old. I'm just kidding. She's not old, but she is pretty. Um, I like her a little. Have for about 20 years now. So today, I'm gonna bake a cake for her for her birthday, along with some other things. We've got every year traditionally on her birthday we plant flowers, um, beautify the outside. It's like our sign of spring is her birthday. But I'm gonna bake her cake for her today, and then I'll cook for her this evening. And the cake she requested was a pineapple sunshine cake. So the recipes that I found online for one, because I never heard of such a thing, they all called for box cake mixes. I Box cake mixes are good in a pinch, and if that's what you need, that's what you need. But I wanted to try to make this cake from scratch, and I mean I've made plenty of cakes from scratch, but they've always been a from scratch recipe. So what we're doing today is we're instead of buying a box cake, a yellow cake, we're going to make one from scratch and then add the ingredients in it to make it a pineapple sunshine cake. So, which is pretty much just a yellow cake with pineapple in it, with a Cool Whip pineapple topping. It sounds really good, very bright, very refreshing. Um, but I'm not going to use a yellow box cakes mix. Next thing is, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm glad to have you. I always like to, on our channel, we pretty much do anything that you ask, as far as like things you want to talk about, things you might want to see baked or cooked. Tuesdays is kind of an open forum. We talk about important matters, whether they be politics or just how to be a good neighbor, how to treat people with kindness, how to better improve yourself, physically, sometimes mentally. We talk about gardening. We on Wednesdays we cook, usually a dinner meal, something that might be kind of quick and fast, or it might be something that takes all day. So far, it's all been stuff that you could probably do through the week. And then on Thursdays, I like to bake. And that's what we're doing today. We're baking. So if you're new, welcome. I'm really glad to have you. Welcome to my kitchen. This is where I spend a good majority of my time. All right. So that being said, pineapple sunshine cake. Let's go through the ingredients list. Since this is a new recipe, I did write it down in my notebook, and we're gonna try it from here now. I got the pineapple sunshine cake recipe itself online, and I don't remember now who exactly it was, but it was on All Recipes website. But then the cake recipe itself for the yellow cake I got from Joy of Baking, Stephanie Jaworski's website. I do so love her website. So things we're going to need first is, let me get to the right page, because right now I'm looking at how to make tomato soup, which was yesterday's video. Here we are. Bum, bum, bum. We're going to need 3/4 cups of butter. And you want this at room temperature. It's 170 grams, 3/4 cup. I cut mine up because if you cut it up versus leaving it in a stick, it's a stick and a half of butter. It takes longer to get to room temperature, where if you got smaller pieces, air circulation, I mean, there's kind of a science behind it, but it warms up quicker. The next thing you're going to need is 265 grams of sugar. I got to think about Sam. Samantha, honey, that's enough. Sam. 265 grams of sugar. Now, if you don't know, Sam is my beagle. She's like a bazillion years old, and she doesn't have a shut-off valve when it comes to eating and drinking. So if I don't remind her, she will drink her entire gallon of water at one time and then want more. which is not healthy. She does get constant water, but we have to occasionally stop her and go, okay, whoa, that's like the 8th time she's been to the water bowl this morning. All right, so we got 1 1/3 cups of sugar, which is 265 grams. I already showed you that. 2 teaspoons of vanilla, which is 8 grams of vanilla. We're going to need 6 large egg yolks, which I don't know if you can see those there. Now, those are just the yolks. You separate them from the whites, and there's a couple different ways you can do that. I personally have a handy-dandy egg yolk separator. You just crack the egg, pour it in there, and all the white falls out, and the yolk stays behind. Then you're going to need, as far as our dry ingredients go, that's our wet ingredients. Our dry ingredients are 3 cups or 300 grams of cake flour. Now, cake flour is it's a different type of flour than your standard flour. If you go to the grocery store, it comes in a box. And it's finer, it's lighter, it's less gluten, and it's really good, but you want to sift it. If you don't have a sifter, go buy one. They're like $3 or $4. And they look just like this. We've had this one for, I don't know, a bazillion years. It wasn't even ours before we got it. I think it was Chris's mom's. But you want it to be sifted because it has a tendency to be clumpy like powdered sugar. The next thing you need is 3½ tablespoons or teaspoons or 14 grams of baking powder. And then you need a ½ teaspoon, 2 grams of salt. And then you need 1 cup of milk, which I did not get out yet. So I'll get it out while we're talking. All right, so with the milk, you can either use grab the wrong measuring cup. With the milk, you can either use 2% or whole milk. If you use whole milk versus 2%, you get a richer, creamier, a richer, fuller cake in the end. But you can use 2%. As a matter of fact, when I watched Miss Jaworski make her cake, she made it with 2%. And I've never had anything go wrong with cakes that I've followed her directions to the T. This time around, though, since we don't drink 2% in our house, all we drink is whole milk, which I think that's even going to change because we are thinking about utilizing a dairy. It's kind of like shared farming on a dairy farm. We pay so much a month, and they send us, milk as often as we need it. We order it, and it's like a co-op. I guess is what I'm getting at. So we'll see how that goes. But that way we get free cream also, because natural milk with fresh milk like that served from the cow, the cream separates from the milk, so you get cream. You can use your coffee, you can bake with, whatever you like. All right, so that's the ingredients list. Tools you will need. As always, scale. Very important. Very cheap. Good investment. Doesn't matter if you're baking or cooking, because there's some cooking recipes that involve a scale. Not many, but it depends on how precise you want to be. But baking is essential. Next thing you're going to need, handful of bowls, obviously. But you will need whisk, spatula of your choice. I absolutely love this Christmas spatula that we've had forever. One of my favorite spatulas, though, believe it or not, is right here. Sarah got me that last year. Yeah, last year. And I use it quite often. It's a nice silicone spatula. Here's what I like about it. It's firm on the sides, but you get up towards the center, and it's kind of loose. It makes it form so much easier, and it's durable, being silicone. And it won't hurt you. All right, last thing you'll need is a mixer. of some sort. You can make this with a hand mixer like we did last week. You can make this with a stand mixer. You could probably even make it with just a whisk, but man, that's a lot of whisking. All right, so we've got our ingredients list done. I'm going to, because as always, I don't ever plug in any of my equipment until it is time to use it. I found in the past, maybe it's just because I have kids, that it's better to wait till the last minute to plug in your equipment and turn it on, so that way nobody else walks by and turns it on for you when you don't want it, and nobody gets hurt, depending on what piece of equipment you're using. If you're using something that's got sharp blades, it can be a hot mess. If you are using a stand mixer, you need a paddle attachment. If you're using a hand mixer, you just need the mixers. I don't even think they make a paddle attachment, so to speak, for hand mixers, but that's kind of like paddle. All right, so let me get you down where you can see things just a hair better. And you're not looking quite at my beautiful face, although not nearly as good looking as you are, you know, by any means. There we go. We are in good shape. Let me grab my drink real quick. I tell you, of all days, today I'm on vacation and the internet's acting wonky, making me nuts. But today, while we're baking, I'm watching Asian action films, which are awesome. So we'll go ahead and get our first thing we're going to play with is the wet ingredients. Now this does take, a little bit of getting used to, but you'll find that making cakes, they kind of follow the same process all the way around. There's always a little deviation, but they follow it all the way around. So first thing we're going to do is put our butter in here, because our butter is warm at room temperature. If you want to know what room temperature is, see how I was able to break that apart fairly easy. It squeezes really, nice and good. That's room temperature. Now, if your butter is not completely at room temperature, that's okay. And the reason why it's okay is because as you mix it in your mixer or with your hand mixer, it warms it up and it'll become room temperature. But what you're looking to do is just cream your butter. So we're gonna go ahead and get this cream. It shouldn't take more than a minute or so. And then after it's creamed, we'll add our sugar to it. Okay, so we've mixed our cream, we've creamed our butter. Let's see if I can get that off there. But see how it's no longer a stick of butter? It's nice and creamy, smooth, whipped. So now we're just going to quickly wipe down our sides. You don't have to take your bowl off to do this, by any means. I just took the bowl off so you guys can see it. I want you to see what it looked like. Now, the next step, it takes a minute, so I'm probably going to pause you after we start it. But it's adding the sugar. So when you add your sugar in this particular recipe, you want your mixer on. Just have it on low, and you're just going to pour it in a little bit at a time. It's times like this, I wish I had a cameraman. And then increase your speed as you go. If I had a cameraman, you guys could zoom in and see what I'm doing, or they can come over here and you can get a better view. So now we've got that in there. What we're going to do is I'm going to put this on medium high, which if you have a stand mixer, right around 6.5, and I'm going to let that run for 3 to 5 minutes. What we're doing is we're incorporating air into it and letting it get fluffy. So once this runs for 3 to 5 minutes, I'll be back and I'll show you what I mean by light and fluffy. All right, we're trying to incorporate as much air as we can because it's a cake. All right, I'll see you here in just a second. Okay, so we're at the tail end of our 5 minutes. Go ahead and shut that off, lift it up, and I'll show you what I mean by light and fluffy. That's kind of how you want it to be right there. You know, it's got some air incorporated into it. The butter's nice and, you know, soft. Everything is in good shape. So that is, it should kind of, yeah, I mean, it just looks light and happy. If that's a way to be when you're a cake mix. So the next thing we want to do is we're going to add our vanilla. And we're going to add our eggs. Now, add them 3 at a time. Because the reason why we don't want to meet and mix too much longer is it can make it tough. So we're gonna, we did our 3 to 5 minutes, and that'll be the longest we beat. So we're gonna incorporate those 3 eggs. And you want your eggs to be at room temperature. Now, might I recommend when you separate your eggs and just get the yolks, you do that while they're cold. That way the yolks don't fall apart. Because if you do it when they're cold, or if you do it while they're warm, they may fall apart, and then you just end up with a scrambled egg mix if you're going to be making scrambled eggs. So we got our eggs are in there, and the only thing the eggs are pretty much doing is giving it the yellow cake color. That's the important thing. And then we're going to get those mixed up in there. Wipe down our sides real quick. Make sure we're good and incorporated. Yeah, you may see a little bit of white still in there, and that's okay, because we're going to keep mixing. But you can see now it's got that yellow cake color. Maybe you can't because my camera lighting is interesting. But it's yellow. Hence the yellow cake. That's the only thing that makes a yellow cake is egg yolk. Which is awesome. Alright, so now that we got our wet ingredients mixed, let's move on to our dry. The dry is really easy. Give me 1 second to clear off a couple of my tools. A couple things I did not mention in the beginning that I should have. Before you start mixing anything together, preheat your oven 350 degrees. Next thing you want to do is, depending on what type of pan you're using. I'm using a glass pan. If you're using a metal pan or even a glass pan, although I'm not going to do this, I'm going to deviate from the rules a little. You want to grease and lightly flour your pan. I'm just going to oil mine. I have not had anything stick to this yet, so I just put a little spray in there, vegetable oil spray, to help it from not sticking. That's the first 2 things you want to do. Well, I guess you don't have to spray your pan right away, but it comes in handy. So we got that mixed. So the next thing we need to do is our dry ingredients, and it's literally just 3 ingredients. We're going to put our baking powder in with the cake flour, and then we're going to add our salt in here. Now, I use kosher salt. This is kosher salt, and it comes in big flakes. So you might want to grind that up a little bit. I just used the back of a spoon while it was in here. I find that with big flakes like that, if you don't grind them up, you have a tendency to get spots in your cake that are salty. Not big spots, not a lot of spots, but there's inevitably one spot. So all we're going to do is whisk this together. Now, you want your milk at room temperature or as close to room temperature as you can get also. That way, you're not well, I don't actually know why you have to have your milk at room temperature, other than the instructions say so. I know with eggs, it's because it's easier to break up the yolk. With butter, it's because it's easier to cream. Which is what we just got done doing there. But milk, I'm not real sure. But I'm sure it has a purpose. And our milk, even though we just poured it, it's not nearly as cold as it was, so I'm going to call it a go on the milk. If not, we'd have just waited a couple more minutes. Wasn't a big deal. I can't believe I forgot the milk to begin with. All right, so here's where it gets kind of tricky. I mean, not really tricky, but kind of tricky. We're going to put the flour mix in, your dry mix in, three different stages. So we'll put a third of the dry mix in, and then we're going to put half the milk in. And then we'll put another thing of the flour mix in, and then we'll use the other half of the milk, and then we'll incorporate the last third of the flour mix. So you don't need to turn your mixer off. And like I said, we're doing it in thirds, so we don't beat up the dough. It can make it kind of crazy, and you always want to start your mixer out when you're putting powders into it, your flour into it, on low. But we don't want glutens to show up, a lot of glutens to show up in our dough. So we'll pour half our milk in. A little bit more. And you want to pour your milk in slowly, that way it doesn't splatter. So flour in a little bit at a time, mix on low. Milk, pour it in slowly. There went the oven. Turn that up a little bit. Let it mix. And like I said, pour your milk in slow. If you don't, it will splatter and make one heck of a mess. Let that get in there good. Put it back on high. Well, not high, but one notch up from low. Get that mixed in good. Then, we'll turn it off. Then we're going to add the rest of our flour in there. Let that go for a second. I'm going to wash my hands real quick. So, I learned this morning that the WNBA, the Women's National Basketball Association, turned 25 years old today. That's crazy. It's hard to believe that they now have players playing for them that aren't as old as the league. That's something new in my lifetime at any rate, because like all the other major sports leagues have been around since the beginning of time. All right, so we've got that mixed. What we'll do is we'll take our paddle off. And then, as you may have seen, that poof of flour come off of there, which is fine. Grab the towel real quick. Yep, we made a bit of a mess. Cake making, at least in my world, is kind of a messy process. But that's all right. So the next thing we need to do is take our bowl. If you can see it, but so we still got some flour and stuff around the edge, a little splatter. So then that's okay. I mean, that's going to happen. That's kind of the nature of baking. So all you want to do is just take your spatula and fold it in. I mean, it's not that big a deal. You want to make sure everything's mixed up real good, because now we're down to the final stages of the cake part. Well, sort of. We got one more ingredient to put in. I forgot to mention it, so we'll review this after we put it in the oven. And that's pineapple. Now, you're going to use a crushed pineapple. I don't know if you've ever seen crushed pineapple. We're going to take 1 8-ounce can and pour it in there. All right? And then we're just going to mix it in. I could have done it with the mixer, but honestly, I completely forgot about it, which is horrible because we're making a pineapple sunshine cake. So we got that good mixed in, as you can see. Right there is our batter. So you want to keep the juice in it, don't strain it. We're actually going to need, if you're going to the grocery store to buy the stuff to make this, buy 2 cans. Because you're going to need 1 can for the cake and 1 can of crushed pineapple for the frosting that goes on top of it. And that whipped frosting sounds amazing. All right, so we've got that all blended up, mixed in. Take your pan. In this case, I'm using a 9x13. You can also, this is a good recipe to use for 2 8-inch cake pans, 9-inch cake pans. Sorry, I want to make everything 8 inches over the last couple of days, but it's a 9-inch cake pan, or you can do a 9x13. This was another deviation from the recipe. The original recipe called it for to be in 2 round cake pans. It's a double layer cake, but the recipe I read for the box cake is for a sheet cake, a single layer cake done in a 9x13. So we will see how that goes. All right, so we got our cake in the pan. Now I just want to level it out. That way we're good and even. You don't want it to not. You don't want to not level your cake out. It'll end up all kinds of funny looking, and probably not bake right. Consistency, in baking is essential. So you want it as level as possible. You want it to, not a whole lot of lumps, bumps, or anything like that. Because it will do some leveling out, but not enough. I mean, like if we'd have just dumped that in there and not spread it out and put it in the oven, you would have had a really wonky looking cake, for sure. All right, so we got a good majority of the excess off there. Spread that in real quick. All right, there we go. This is our cake. So let's talk about the oven for a second and how we're going to approach that. All right, so we're going to put our cake in the oven, 350 degrees. Now, depending on whose recipe you follow, I know with the round cakes, the layer cakes, it can take up to 50-55 minutes. At least that's what the recommended time was. The box cake is 20 to 24 minutes, and everything I've read on making a birthday cake or a sheet cake says 25 to 30. So, here's how I'm going to approach this. I am going to just completely throw out the 50 to 55 minutes. Not going to happen. That's way too long. I am going to start at 25 minutes at 350 degrees, and I'll toothpick test it. Okay, if you don't know what a toothpick test is, you literally take a toothpick, you stick it in the center of the cake, and if it comes out clean or just has a couple little crumbs on it, you're done. Cakes don't quit baking the minute you pull them out of the oven. They will continue to bake, so if it's got a little crumb on it, you're fine. If it comes out wet or still has batter on it, it's not done, and we're going to add more time. We're only going to add a minute or two at a time, and we're going to check it every minute. So if you add 2 minutes, you're going to check it twice until we get light crumb or nothing at all on the toothpick. Once I get done baking this, when we come back, I'll let you know exactly how long it took me to bake this in my oven. That way you can adjust your oven to its needs. No oven bakes the same. None. Not a one. Doesn't even matter if they were right next to each other on the assembly line. They're going to bake differently. So we're going to start 350 degrees, 25 minutes, see where that takes us. I am going to turn my pan 180 degrees halfway through the cooking cycle to give it an even bake. All right? No oven bakes even either. I don't care who you are and how much you spend on an oven. Doesn't bake even. I've been using an oven for a long time, and I've never had one that bakes even. So let me go ahead and get this in the oven, and when we come back, we'll look that over and and make some icing. All right, I'll see you here in just a moment. All right, guys, we're back. Let the cake bake. So here's how we turned out. Right here. Nice golden brown on top. Looks like a yellow cake. Yep. Bottom looks good. Nothing's burnt. So what I did was I started at 25 minutes. Then I went to 30 minutes. It ended up being 35 minutes. We did the toothpick test. I put it in the first time, and the bottom of it, at 25 minutes, there was a whole lot of gooey. So at 30 minutes, it was just a little wet down at the bottom. At 35 minutes, it was great. It turned out perfect. No crumb, no nothing, clean. Another way you can test if it's done or not, if you put your hand on top of it, it should have some springiness to it. It should be like a sponge, and this one does, as you can just see. So I let it bake for 35 minutes, and then I let it cool for about a half hour. We want it completely cool in order to do this gig. So what did we do in the process? She took it from me. Oh, no, she didn't. Me and Abby and Kris made some slime. With a nifty new slime making machine carnival looking thing that Abby just got from the store. And she's having an absolute blast with. So the next thing we got to do is make the icing. Icing has 3 simple ingredients. It is 1 container of Cool Whip topping of your choice, or whipped topping, because Cool Whip is a name brand, and I'm not using Cool Whip. This is Kroger brand. We need a box of 3.5 ounce box, a small box of vanilla pudding, and like I said earlier, your second can of crushed pineapple. Use any brands you like. That's what we're going to use. Let me grab a bowl real quick. And I'm telling you, this is like the easiest recipe in the entire world. First thing we're going to do is take our whipped topping and put it in a bowl. Let me scoot down so I can show you what I'm doing. All right. We're going to empty this entire 8-ounce container into our bowl, like such. There we are. 8-ounce container of Cool Whip topping. Then we will open up our vanilla pudding. We need more water. All right, there you go. All right, good enough. Needed water to make slime. All right, so then we're going to open up our pudding pack. Ooh, maybe, but I'll dump it all over the place first. And honestly, this right here would be like the most amazing whipped topping ever. And we're going to pour that on there kind of evenly on the top. And then we're going to take our other can of crushed pineapple. Gotta love 3 ingredients. Open that up. And we're going to pour that in. And then we're simply just going to fold this all together. You know, we want to fold it well. You don't want to mix it. You don't want to whip it. You want to literally fold it in on itself. Because if you're not careful, like if you were to take this, put this in a blender or use a mixer or something like that, you would actually break down the whipped cream. And then you would just end up with a puddle of stuff. So, this way, we get a nice even fold onto it. I'll be back in just 1 second. Okay, so, sorry about that. I had to run outside real quick. And Abby decided she was going to go outside without letting anybody know. And she's still outside, just now I know. I let her know to stay in the yard. So anyhow, that's what we've come up with. Right there is our icing. So all we got left to do is, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I let the cake completely cool down. I've got nothing but time on this today, but the last thing you want to do is stick cold whipped topping on a hot cake. It'll just, it does funny things to it. It'll liquefy your topping. So you don't want to stick whipped topping on a hot cake. So you let it cool down completely. Like I said, no rush. You know, you can go out, do your whatever you need to do, and you saw how long it takes to make this topping. It takes like 30 seconds. So we put the topping on there, and then we're going to spread it out. Get it in fairly equal parts, all the way around smooth. So I was having an interesting dilemma with this cake, because with everything I make or cook or bake, I usually cut a piece right then and there to try it. Well, since this isn't just my cake, today, because it's Chris's birthday cake, I was trying to figure out the best way to do this. So now that we've got it iced, what I'm going to do with this particular cake, anything that has an icing on it or involves like a dairy product in the topping, you want to keep refrigerated. Now, this cake probably won't last 2 days in my house, but if you don't refrigerate it, the topping can go bad. So, and it'll last a few days in there. But anyhow, back to the thought at hand. I want to be able to talk about how this tastes. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stick this in the fridge, and I'm going to have to wait. But there is our cake with our topping on it. Looks absolutely gorgeous, just like I thought it would. We did very well. You did a good job helping me. Thank you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lid on it, and I'm going to stick it in the refrigerator. And then that way, Kris can have the first piece of cake that comes out, and maybe if we're lucky, she'll tell us what she thinks. But if not, I'm going to at least tell you what I think about it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break for now. I'll put this in the fridge, break for now. Let's try the topping, because it is on my finger. Ooh, that's really good. I did have some of the cake batter earlier when I was doing up the dishes, and if the cake tastes anything like the batter did, phenomenal. And all right, so anyhow, I'm going to put this in the fridge. Don't leave a whipped topping icing out at room temperature. It will break down, turn nasty, and not be very good. And when I come back here shortly, it'll be birthday cake time. But I'm going to try a piece, and we'll let you know how it tastes. All right, I'll see you here in just a little bit. Or in your case, a matter of like a blink of an eye. All right, guys. Well, the day is done. We got a lot accomplished today. And we finally got done eating dinner. Had some family over. Had made just one heck of a spread. And now we're all stuffed. But we're going to eat cake anyhow, because it's what we do. And our company's going to have to leave soon. They've got drives back to different cities. So, I will tell you this much. This cake looks phenomenal. There's what we look like on the inside. Got your nice yellow cake, nice whipped topping. Got the pineapple all the way through it. So let's go ahead and give her a shot and see how she tastes. That's really good. I mean, it is. That's no crap. It's really good. The cake is really moist. The whipped cream is always good. Whipped cream's whipped cream. But you can really taste the balance between the vanilla pudding and the whipped cream. The pineapple throughout, you would think in a way it would be horribly sweet. And it's not horribly sweet. I mean, it is so balanced and so moist. And it's even still kind of chilly. It hasn't even gotten back up to close to room temperature yet. And it still has a lot of moistness. You can tell there's the air incorporated in it. It's not dense. It is quite a good cake and not hard to make. And like I said, if you don't want to make the yellow cake part from scratch, that's cool. Go get a box. They're like $1.50 at almost any grocery store, at least in the Ohio area. And whipped cream's another $1. The pineapple was $1 each can. So I mean, realistically, for about $4 or $5, you can have a really nice cake. Keep it in the fridge. It'll last a couple, 2-3 days at least. I mean, if it makes it that long, I know it won't in my house. But yeah. All right. Well, don't forget to subscribe. Tell your friends about us. It's lots of fun. If you're new to the channel, once again, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I hope we can bring something to the table for you. If you try this recipe, if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, you think it stinks, let me know. I would love to talk about it. Find me on Facebook, Instagram. Always comment here on YouTube. If there's anything I think you want to talk about, ideas you have, whatnots, who's its and how's its, let me know. All right? I'm going to go eat the rest of my cake and enjoy the rest of the birthday party. I will talk to you guys probably, no later than next Tuesday, but I may do another video. I got a couple other things going on that I want to show you. All right? I love you. Tell somebody else you love them. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.